The alien mercenary's plasma blade flashed, and the loyal Vargu's lifeless body thudded to the ground, its blood splashing across young Lily's face as she screamed. Captain Zorak's bloodfist laughed cruelly, the human child's anguish a delightful bonus as he and his Zorgaxian raiders pillaged the New Eden colony. They stripped the settlement of supplies and tech, leaving smoking ruins and wailing survivors in their wake. But in his arrogance, Zorax made a fatal mistake. He left Lily alive. Lily's Vargu was more than a pet. It was a final gift from her mother, the legendary commander Alara Vance, before Alara went into cryo sleep decades ago with the rest of Earth's elite cryo legion, to await humanity's ultimate hour of need. That hour had come. Relations with the Zorgaxian Empire had crumbled, and their atrocities against human colonies were pushing mankind to the brink. When news of her daughter's trauma reached Alara, the grieving commander stormed into a top-secret Earth Defense Council session and delivered a dire ultimatum. Unleash the Cryo Legion against the Zorgaxians, or watch humanity's future burn. Alara's impassioned plea moved the council to a grim conclusion. The 10,000 legionnaires would be awakened from stasis and mobilized for total war under her command. As the legion prepared for the bloodshed to come, Alara swore she would find the alien butcher who slaughtered Lily's innocent Vargu and make him suffer. The Zorgaxians had sown the wind, and now humanity would reap the whirlwind. Alara knew that in the 23rd century's grim darkness, there could be no mercy, only vengeance. The splendor of the Zorgaxian royal court was a garish mask concealing the rot festering beneath. In the cavernous throne room, mercenary Captain Zorax Bloodfist strutted before King Zorvax III, bragging of the brutality he had unleashed upon the New Eden colony. His voice rang with sadistic glee as he recounted cornering the human child called Lily and butchering her pet Vargu before her eyes. The little brat's screams were like music, Zorax cackled, his eyes gleaming with cruelty. It was a delight to teach her the cost of defying Zorgaxian might. The assembled courtiers howled their approval, cheering and pounding their fists. All except one, Princess Zara, whose stomach churned with revulsion. She watched her father, King Zorvax, clap Zorax on the back, praising him for keeping the human vermin in their place. But all Zara could see was a bully being lauded for tormenting a child. As the court celebrated, a Zorgaxian intelligence operative named Zev slipped into the throne room and approached the king. He leaned in, whispering urgently in Zorvax's ear. The king's eyes widened. The humans have activated a secret weapon called the Cryo Legion, Zev hissed. 10,000 super soldiers, led by Lily's mother. They're preparing to strike back for New Eden. Zorvax stroked his chin, a slow grin spreading across his face. He stood, raising his hands for silence. My loyal subjects, he bellowed, the time has come to seize our destiny. Too long have we allowed the humans to pollute the stars with their presence. But now their most powerful defenders are out in the open, distracted and vulnerable. We will crush them and grind their homeworld beneath our heels. The court erupted in bloodthirsty cheers. Zara shook her head in disgust. She had to warn the humans somehow. On Earth, Commander Alara Vance stood before her Cryo Legion, 10,000 strong. Their cryopods were arranged in massive ranks, hissing open to release the grizzled super soldiers from their icy slumber. Each bore the scars of 100 campaigns, and the righteous fury of warriors roused to face a loathsome foe. Alara's executive officer, a gene-boosted Maori giant named Tane, thumped his chest in a warrior's salute. What are your orders, Commander? Alara's eyes flashed with steel as an Earth Defense Council hologlobe flared to life, showing Zorgaxian ships massing on the border. Humanity has suffered these alien butchers for too long, she growled. They sow innocent blood and call it strength. They mistake our restraint for weakness, but no longer. She drew her plasma saber, the blade flaring to life with an angry hiss. The Zorgaxians want a war. By God, we'll give them one. We'll drive them back to Zorgax Prime and show them the fury of a free people. And I will personally ram this blade through the skull of the bastard who murdered my daughter's Vargu. Alara raised her saber high, its blue glow reflecting off the hard faces of her legion. Cry havoc, ladies and gentlemen, and let slip the dogs of war. In the depths of Zorgaxian space, a spy drone's quantum transmitter flickered to life. It beamed a burst of encrypted data across the stars, bearing news that would soon set the galaxy ablaze. The message reached Zorgax Prime in seconds, racing through the planetary defense grid to the Royal Court's comm center. Decrypted and translated, it scrolled across the situational display as King Zorvax III watched with hawkish eyes. "The human Cryo Legion is awake," Zorvax read aloud, his voice dripping with contempt. 10,000 of their strongest warriors, preparing to strike at the Empire. The assembled advisors traded nervous glances, waiting for the king's reaction. But instead of caution or concern, a slow grin spread across Zorvax's mottled face. "Don't you see?" he crowed. "This is our chance. The humans have tipped their hand, revealed their ace in the hole, and now we will crush it." He turned to the High Admiral of the Zorgaxian fleet, a scarred old warlord named Zorgoth. "Recall every ship to the human border. Arm every torpedo, charge every laser bank. An invasion is long overdue." Zorgoth frowned. "My king, shouldn't we wait, gather intelligence on this new threat before—" "No," Zorvax snarled. "I'm done waiting. I'm done watching the humans infest the stars like vermin. It's time to claim our destiny." He jabbed a clawed finger at the display, as if trying to spear the human world's mark there. "This is our hour. Ours. I want a war proclamation broadcast on every channel. Let the galaxy know that the Zorgaxian Empire will suffer the human filth no longer." As the court scrambled to obey, Zorvax turned to Captain Zorax Bloodfist with a vicious smile. "Looks like you'll get to spill more human blood after all, my good captain. Report to Admiral Zorgoth for frontline duty. Show them your brand of cruelty." Zorax pounded a fist against his chest, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "With pleasure, my king. Their screams will be a symphony." Light years away, Commander Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the CLS Retribution, watching her battle fleet assemble. The Cryo Legion's ships were lean and lethal, all sharp angles and jam-packed gun batteries, cloaked in the latest stealth tech. At Alara's side stood Colonel Jace Randall, his bald head gleaming under the bridge lights. The big man radiated gruff concern. "You sure you're up for this, boss?" he rumbled. "I know finding that bastard who killed Lily's pet is personal for you. Don't let it cloud your judgment out there." Alara's eyes sharp as she watched Legionnaires strapping into drop pods, their power armor humming with barely restrained energy. Each was a veteran of 100 wars, cybernetically enhanced and hungry for the fight. "I'd be lying if I said the thought of wringing Zorax's neck wasn't damn tempting," she admitted. "But I'm a Legion commander first and a mother second. My duty to humanity comes before any personal vendetta." Randall nodded slowly. "Roger that. Just don't forget you've got people watching your back. We'll get you home to Lily. Count on it." Alara clasped his shoulder, gratitude in her eyes. Then she turned to the comm station. "Get me the doc. I need to check on my daughter." The view screen flickered, resolving into an image of Lily nestled in an infirmary bed. Alara's heart twisted at the sight of her girl, so pale and fragile. "Hey, baby," she said softly. "How you feeling?" Lily managed a trembling smile. "Better, I guess. Are you going away to fight the monsters now?" Alara swallowed hard. "Yeah, sweetie. I have to go stop them from hurting anyone else, like they hurt you. But I promise I'll come back. And when this war is over, we'll start a new life, far away from all this pain. Okay?" Lily nodded, eyes brimming with trust. "Okay. I love you, Mom." "I love you too, baby girl. More than all the stars in the sky." Alara cut the transmission before the tears could spill down her face. She drew in a shuddering breath, hands clenching into fists. A klaxon blared, red light spinning. Randall leaned over the sensor console, his face grim. "Multiple warp signatures detected on the far side of the DMZ. It's the Zorgaxian fleet, a whole damn armada. Looks like the war just came to us." Alara's eyes flashed like tempered steel. She strode to the command dais, voice booming across the bridge. "Battle stations, I want the fleet in attack formation, all guns hot. Prep the drop pods and warm up the fusion drives. She gripped the rail as her ships accelerated to combat speed, the stars blurring past. A cold, implacable fury settled in her gut, a promise of retribution to come. "Cry havoc," Alara whispered, "and let slip the dogs of war." The void of space erupted in fire as the Cryo Legion's fleet materialized from warp. Alara's eyes narrowed, taking in the vast array of Zorgaxian warships spread before them like a sea of metal predators. "Tactical, full scan," she ordered, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. "I want shield strengths, weapon configurations, everything." Colonel Randall's fingers danced across the holographic interface. "Scans complete. Their fleet outnumbers us 3-1, but their tech is decades behind ours. Shields are weak, weapons outdated." A predatory smile crept across Alara's face. "Then let's show them what real firepower looks like. All ships assume attack formation Delta, shields to maximum." The Legion vessels moved with fluid grace, sliding into a perfect arrowhead formation. Seconds later, the sky lit up as thousands of Zorgaxian missiles streaked towards them. "Brace for impact," Randall bellowed. The missiles slammed into the Legion's energy shields, exploding in dazzling starbursts. When the light faded, Alara's fleet hung unscathed in the void. "Our turn," Alara growled. "Weapons free, give them hell." The Legion ships answered with a devastating barrage. Railgun slugs accelerated to relativistic speeds, tore through Zorgaxian hulls effortlessly. Plasma torpedoes detonated with the fury of artificial suns, vaporizing entire squadrons. On the bridge of the Zorgaxian flagship, King Zorvax III snarled in frustration as damage reports flooded in. "Impossible! How can these human vermin possess such power?" He slammed a fist on his command chair. "Zorax, get your mercenaries over there. I want one of their ships intact. We must have their technology." Captain Zorax's laughter crackled over the comm. "With pleasure, Your Majesty. Time for some close-quarters mayhem." Zorax's heavily armored dropship screamed across the battlefield, weaving through debris and weapons fire. It slammed into the hull of Alara's command ship, magnetic clamps locking on with a resounding clang. Alara stumbled as the impact rocked her vessel. "Report!" "Hull breach in Section 7, a crewman shouted. "Enemy boarding party detected." Colonel Randall was already moving. "I'll handle this. Security team to Section 7. Randall's boots pounded the deck as he sprinted towards the breach, plasma rifle at the ready. He rounded a corner to find Zorax's mercenaries pouring through a ragged hole in the hull, weapons blazing. "Push them back," Randall roared, opening fire. The corridor became a maelstrom of plasma bolts and shrapnel. Randall's security team fought valiantly, but the Zorgaxians pressed forward with superior numbers. Zorax himself burst through the melee, Vibrox humming with lethal energy. He locked eyes with Randall and grinned. "I was hoping for a real fight." The two warriors clashed in a blur of strikes and parries. Randall's enhanced reflexes kept him alive, but Zorax's raw strength was overwhelming. With a brutal swing, the mercenary's axe sliced through Randall's armor, opening a deep gash across his torso. Randall collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. Zorax planted a boot on his chest. "Looks like you humans aren't so tough after all." Before he could land the killing blow, the ship's intercom crackled. "This is Commander Vance. All hands, prepare to repel boarders." Zorax's eyes widened. "The bitch herself. Oh, this day just keeps getting better." He gestured to his crew. "Secure the engine core. I've got a score to settle." Alara sprinted through her ship's corridors, a squad of elite guards at her heels. The sounds of battle grew louder as they neared the breach point. They burst into the engine room to find Zorax's mercenaries swarming over the fusion core, attaching data siphons and explosives. "Get away from my ship," Alara snarled, igniting her laser-bladed Gauruk. The room exploded into chaos. Alara moved like lightning, her enhanced body pushing beyond human limits. Her warblade carved through armor and flesh with equal ease, leaving a trail of dismembered Zorgaxians in her wake. A familiar laugh cut through the din. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Alara turned to see Zorax striding towards her, vibrox crackling with energy. I've been looking forward to this rematch since New Eden. You're going to pay for what you did, Alara growled. Their weapons met in a shower of sparks. Zorax's brute strength matched against Alara's speed and skill. They danced a deadly waltz through the engine room, trading blows that could shear steel. You should have seen the look on your brat's face, Zorax taunted between strikes. When I gutted her pet, music to my ears. Alara's vision went red. With a primal scream, she unleashed a flurry of attacks. Zorax stumbled back, barely deflecting the onslaught. In a final, crushing blow, Alara's blade shattered the mercenary's axe and sent him sprawling. Zorax looked up to see Alara's blade at his throat, her eyes burning with hate. Do it, he spat. Show me what passes for fury among your species. Alara's hand trembled. For a moment she saw Lily's tear-streaked face, heard the echo of her Vargu's dying whimper. Then, with monumental effort, she lowered her weapon. Get off my ship, each word dripped venom. Zorax's eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed with hatred. As Alara's guards dragged him away, he shouted, This isn't over, human! I'll have my revenge! Alara ignored him, rushing to Randall's side. Her old friend managed a weak smile. Guess I owe you one, boss. You can buy the first round when we get home, Alara said, applying a medical patch to his wound. The ship rocked as another volley struck their shields. Alara helped Randall to his feet and strode to a command console. The battle map showed a sea of crippled Zorgaxian ships, with more falling by the second. This is Commander Vance to all ships, she broadcast. Press the attack. Victory is within our grasp. As the Legion fleet surged forward, the Zorgaxian armada began to crumble. On his flagship's bridge, King Zorvax watched in horror as his mighty armada disintegrated. All ships, fall back, he screamed. Retreat to the homeworld. The surviving Zorgaxian vessels turned tail and fled, leaving a graveyard of twisted metal in their wake. On the Retribution's bridge, a cheer went up from the crew. Alara allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. They had won the day, but this was only the beginning. The real war lay ahead, and she knew the price of victory would be paid in blood. Blood. Months passed as the Cryo Legion pushed deeper into Zorgaxian space. Alara stood on the bridge of the Retribution, studying a hollow map of conquered territory. The blue of human-controlled systems spread like a tide across the star chart. Another successful offensive, Commander, Colonel Randall reported, his cybernetic eye glowing as it processed data. The Zorgaxians are falling back on all fronts. Alara nodded, her face etched with fatigue. They can't sustain these losses much longer. Any word on King Zorvax? Still holed up in his palace on the homeworld, Randall replied. Intel suggests he's growing increasingly erratic. A young lieutenant approached, datapad in hand. Commander, we've received a priority communique from Rear Admiral Chen. There's been an incident at Outpost Sigma. Alara's brow furrowed as she scanned the report. Her eyes widened. A terrorist attack? How the hell did they get past our security? The bridge fell silent as she read further, her expression hardening. Multiple casualties. High-ranking officers taken hostage. Damn it! She slammed a fist on the console. Set course for Outpost Sigma, maximum speed. I want a full tactical assessment by the time we arrive. As the Retribution streaked through hyperspace, King Zorvax III paced his opulent throne room. Hollow screens displayed the steady march of human forces across his once mighty empire. Useless, he snarled, hurling a priceless artifacts across the room. My generals are incompetent. My fleet is in tatters. A cloaked figure materialized from the shadows. Perhaps your majesty requires a different approach? Zorvax whirled, eyes narrowing. Ah, Shadow Mind, what dark whispers does my spy master bring? The hooded alien's voice was a sibilant hiss. News of Zorax Bloodfist. His mission progresses most satisfactorily. A cruel smile spread across the king's face. Show me. Shadow Mind's cloak shimmered, projecting a hollow recording. It showed a military compound in chaos, fires raging, bodies strewn across the ground. A heavily armored vehicle smashed through a perimeter fence, alarms blaring in its wake. "Excellent," Zorvax purred. "And the next phase?" "Already in motion, my king? Zorax's team has acquired high-value prisoners. They move to rendezvous with our deep-cover operative." The king's eyes glittered with malice. "At last, a worthy plan. Let Vance and her legion chase phantoms while we strike at their very heart." Light years away, in the cramped hold of a stolen human transport, Zorax Bloodfist allowed himself a predatory grin. Huddled in the corner, bound and gagged, sat 3 terrified human officers, their fear-filled eyes darting between the heavily armed mercenaries. "Quit your sniveling," Zorax growled, checking the restraints on a trembling colonel. "You should be honored. You're about to play a pivotal role in bringing down your precious Commander Vance." One of Zorax's lieutenants, a hulking crone named Grok, rumbled from the pilot's seat. "2 hours to the rendezvous point, boss. No sign of pursuit yet." Zorax nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. The attack on the outpost had been a resounding success, but it was only the opening move in a far more elaborate game. With these hostages as leverage and the wealth of intelligence they would soon provide, he would have his revenge on Alara Vance and secure his place in Zorgaxian history. As their stolen ship hurtled through space, a cold certainty settled in Zorax's gut. This time, there would be no mercy. "Mercy!" The stolen transport shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace near the Zorgaxian-controlled colony of Nexus 7. Zorax surveyed his captives with predatory satisfaction. "Welcome to your new home, humans," he sneered. "Hope you enjoy your stay." A proximity alarm blared. Grok's eyes widened as he scanned the readouts. "Boss, we've got a problem. Patrol ships closing fast." Zorax snarled a curse. "Evasive maneuvers! Get us to the surface now!" The transport bucked as Grok pushed its engines beyond safe limits. Zorax activated the comm system, his voice dripping with false charm. "Nexus Control, this is Freighter Stardust requesting emergency landing clearance. We have a, sensitive cargo delivery for the governor." A tense moment passed before a gruff voice responded. "Clearance granted, Stardust. Proceed to landing pad Alpha 7. As they entered the atmosphere, Grok grunted in satisfaction. "Looks like our contacts came through." The transport touched down on a grimy landing pad in the heart of the colony's sprawling industrial sector. A motley group of figures emerged from a nearby warehouse, the local criminal element Zorax had contracted for their infiltration. "Showtime!" Zorax growled, hefting his massive vibrox. "Remember the plan. No survivors." The hatch hissed open. Zorax strode down the ramp, all smiles and false camaraderie. "Gentlemen, so good to see you. I trust our payment is ready?" The lead smuggler, a scarred Vargosian, nodded eagerly. Of course, right this way." In a blur of motion, Zorax's axe cleaved through the alien skull. His team erupted from the transport, weapons blazing. The criminal contacts fell in seconds, their bodies riddled with plasma bolts. "Move out!" Zorax bellowed. "To the depot!" They sprinted across the landing pad, alarms already blaring in the distance. The massive supply depot loomed before them, its gates beginning to close. Grok hefted a rocket launcher, grinning savagely. "I've got this, boss." The missile streaked towards the gate, detonating in a thunderous fireball. Zorax's team poured through the smoking wreckage, cutting down panicked workers and security personnel. Inside the cavernous facility, chaos reigned. Zorax carved a bloody path through terrified logistics officers, his axe singing a lethal song. Screams and weapons fire echoed off metal walls as the mercenaries methodically slaughtered everyone in sight. A young human officer stumbled from behind a stack of crates, hands raised in surrender. "Please, I'm unarmed!" Zorax's blade flashed. The officer crumpled, crimson spreading across his chest. "No mercy!" the mercenary captain growled. As the last echoes of gunfire faded, Zorax surveyed the carnage with grim satisfaction. Dozens of human bodies littered the depot floor, their blood pooling around crates of supplies meant for the front lines. "Boss!" Grok called from a nearby computer terminal. I've got the shipping manifest. There's a heavily armored hauler in Bay 4, military-grade shielding and weapons. Zorax grinned. Perfect. Load up what we can carry and get that hauler prepped. We're not done here yet. As his team ransacked the depot, Zorax prowled through the offices. He found what he was looking for in a secure conference room. 3 high-ranking officers cowering beneath a table. Well, well, Zorax purred, hauling them to their feet. Looks like we've got some VIPs. You'll be coming with us. One of the officers, a weathered colonel, glared defiantly. You won't get away with this, you bastard! Zorax laughed, cold and mirthless. Oh, but I already have. Alarms blared throughout the colony as Zorax's team piled into the stolen hauler. The massive vehicle smashed through the depot's perimeter fence, concrete and metal crumpling seamlessly. Pursuit incoming, Grok shouted from the pilot's seat. Multiple vehicles, heavy weapons. Zorax strapped himself into the gunner's chair, a feral grin spreading across his face. Then let's give them a proper welcome, shall we? The hauler's turrets roared to life, spewing plasma bolts and high-explosive shells. The pursuing security forces scattered, their lighter vehicles no match for the military-grade firepower. As they raced across the war-torn landscape of Nexus 7, Zorax allowed himself a moment of savage triumph. The plan was proceeding perfectly. Soon these hostages would be the key to bringing Alara Vance to her knees. Little did he know that even now, light years away, the Retribution was dropping out of hyperspace, and Commander Vance's vengeance was about to be unleashed. The Retribution emerged from hyperspace above Outpost Sigma, its weapons primed for combat. Alara's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the tactical display. The station's defenses were offline, and debris fields scattered across nearby space told a grim tale. Status report, she barked. Colonel Randall's cybernetic eye whirred as he processed incoming data. No sign of the hostage-taker's ship, Commander. They must have fled the system. Alara clenched her fist. Damn it! Prep a strike team for immediate deployment. We need to secure that outpost and gather intel. As her troops swept through the ravaged station, Alara's comm crackled to life. Commander Vance, priority transmission from High Command. She steeled herself, expecting a dressing down for the security breach. Instead, the holographic face that materialized before her was none other than Fleet Admiral Jackson. Commander, he said, his voice grave, we have a situation. Alara listened intently as the Admiral outlined an almost unbelievable turn of events. King Zorvax III, their sworn enemy, was requesting their help. His daughter, Princess Zara, had been shot down and taken hostage on Hadija. This could be a trap, Alara said, her mind racing. Admiral Jackson nodded. Possibly, but our intelligence suggests it's genuine. The princess was on a covert mission to open peace talks. Alara's breath caught. Peace? After years of brutal conflict, it seemed almost too good to be true. There's more, Jackson continued. The mercenaries responsible. They're led by someone calling himself Zethor the Mutilator, former comrade of your old friend, Zorax Bloodfist. Alara's blood ran cold. If these were the same mercs who attacked Outpost Sigma. What are my orders, sir? You're to rendezvous with a Zorgaxian strike force near Hadija. King Zorvax himself will be commanding their team. Your mission is to rescue the princess and neutralize the mercenary threat. Alara's eyebrows furrowed. Understood, Admiral. We'll get it done. As the transmission ended, she turned to her crew. Set course for Hadija, maximum speed, and someone get me everything we have on this Zythor character. The Retribution streaked through hyperspace, tension mounting with each passing moment. Alara poured over tactical readouts, formulating strategies for the joint operation ahead. They dropped out of hyperspace near Hadija's twin moons, immediately detecting the looming presence of the Zorgaxian flagship. A heavily encrypted channel crackled to life. Commander Vance, a deep, imperious voice intoned, this is King Zorvax III. Are you prepared to proceed with the operation? Alara took a deep breath, pushing aside years of ingrained hatred. Affirmative, Your Majesty. My team stands ready. Excellent. We have tracked the mercenaries to a fortified compound on the larger moon, transmitting coordinates now. As the joint strike force assembled in the Retribution's hangar bay, Alara addressed her troops. "I know this alliance feels unnatural," she said, her voice steady. "But right now, we have a common enemy and a chance, however slim, at peace. Stay focused on the mission." The dropships screamed through the moon's thin atmosphere, plasma bolts from mercenary emplacements sizzling past their hulls. Alara gripped her rifle tightly as they touched down amidst a hail of gunfire. "Go, go, go!" she shouted, leading the charge out of the ship. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Cryo legionnaires fought alongside Zorgaxian Imperial guards, their combined firepower slowly pushing back the mercenary forces. Alara's enhanced reflexes kicked in as she ducked and weaved through the melee, her shots finding their marks with lethal precision. A massive Kron mercenary burst from cover, roaring a challenge. Before Alara could react, a Zorgaxian energy blade sliced through the air, nearly severing the brute's arm. She turned to see King Zorvax himself, resplendent in gleaming battle armor, nodding grimly in her direction. "The main compound," he bellowed over the din of battle. "We must breach it before Zythor can escape with my daughter." Alara signaled to her demo team. "You heard the king! Blow that door!" The explosion rocked the entire structure. As the smoke cleared, Alara and Zorvax led the charge into the mercenary stronghold. They fought their way through twisting corridors, leaving a trail of broken bodies in their wake. Finally, they reached a heavily fortified chamber. The door buckled under their combined assault, revealing a scene that made Alara's blood run cold. Zythor the Mutilator, a scarred mountain of muscle and cybernetic enhancements, stood with a wicked-looking blade pressed against the throat of a terrified young woman, Princess Zara. "One more step," Zythor snarled, "and the little princess loses her head." Alara and King Zorvax exchanged a tense glance. The fate of two empires hung in the balance, with Zythor's blade poised to sever more than just a royal throat. The future of two warring species balanced on the edge of a blade. Alara's mind raced, assessing options. A direct assault would end in disaster. She locked eyes with King Zorvax, a silent understanding passing between them. "Very well, Zythor," Alara said, her voice steady. "Name your price." The mercenary's scarred face twisted into a grotesque grin. "Now we're talking. I want a fully stocked cruiser, immunities in both your territories, and enough credits to build my own private army." King Zorvax growled, his massive frame trembling with barely contained rage. "You dare—" Alara cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Done, but we'll need time to gather the resources. Give us 6 hours." Zythor's eyes narrowed suspiciously. 4, and the princess stays with me until I'm safely away." "Agreed," Alara nodded, holstering her weapon. "We'll contact you with the transfer details." As they exited the compound, Zorvax rounded on her. "You cannot seriously intend to capitulate to that scum." Alara's lips curled into a predatory smile. "Of course not, but he doesn't know that." She activated her tactical display, outlining their true strategy. Strike teams would encircle the outpost while a decoy transport delivered the ransom. Zorvax's expression shifted from outrage to grudging admiration. "Devious," he rumbled. "Perhaps there's hope for your species yet." The next 4 hours passed in a blur of frenetic activity. Cryo legionnaires and Imperial guards moved into position with practiced stealth. Alara personally oversaw the preparation of the ransom transport, ensuring it was packed with non-lethal ordnance and swarm bots. As the deadline approached, Alara's voice crackled over the encrypted channel. "All units, prepare to execute on my mark." The transport touched down outside the mercenary compound. Zythor emerged, Princess Zara stumbling before him with a blade at her back. He grinned triumphantly as he approached the ship's open cargo bay. "Clever girl," he sneered, catching sight of the credit chits and weapons within. "But not clever in—" "Now!" Alara's command sliced through the air. The cargo bay erupted in a storm of flashbangs and pacification gas. Simultaneously, the hidden strike teams burst from cover. Plasma bolts and cryo rounds crisscrossed the battlefield as Zythor's surprised mercenaries fell in droves. Through the chaos, Alara spotted a blur of motion. Princess Zara breaking free and sprinting towards Allied lines. A legionnaire scooped her up, whisking her to safety. "Target secured," the soldier's voice confirmed in Alara's ear. She allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before refocusing on the battle. Zythor was nowhere to be seen. A roar of engines drew her attention skyward. A sleek gunship rose from behind the compound, afterburners flaring as it attempted to flee. "All fighters, engage!" Alara barked, racing for her own craft. The gunship weaved through a hail of incoming fire, but Alara's seasoned pilots were relentless. A precision shot clipped its starboard engine, sending the ship into a wild spin. Trailings of smoke and fire, it plummeted towards the vast Hadesian desert. Alara's fighter touched down near the crash site minutes later. She emerged, rifle at the ready, as her strike team fanned out around her. The twisted wreckage of Zythor's ship smoldered in the harsh sun. A blood-curdling howl erupted from behind a dune. Zythor charged into view, half his cybernetics sparking and broken. He hefted a massive piece of shrapnel like a club. "For the glory of Zythor!" he roared, smashing through the first line of legionnaires. Alara's troops opened fire, but the mercenary's augmented frame shrugged off wounds that would fell a normal being. He carved a path of destruction, closing on Alara's position. She stood her ground, waiting until he was mere meters away. At the last second, Alara ducked under his wild swing. Her rifle's bayonet flashed upward, finding a weak point in his armor. Zythor stumbled, momentum carrying him past her. Alara spun, lining up her shot. 3 precise bursts tore through the mercenary's spine, dropping him to the sand. Zythor lay broken, his eyes blazing with hatred as Alara approached. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "The galaxy will burn. Your precious piece is built on—" The crack of Alara's rifle silenced him mid-sentence. She stared at the corpse for a long moment before turning away. "Contact King Zorvax," she ordered her second-in-command. "Tell him it's done." Hours later, Alara stood beside the Zorgaxian ruler in a makeshift conference room. Princess Zara sat nearby, looking shaken but determined. Hollow projectors displayed the gathered dignitaries of both species. King Zorvax's voice boomed across the chamber. "Let it be known that on this day, the Zorgaxian Empire and the Human Confederation declare an end to hostilities." As the ceasefire was outlined, Alara's gaze met Zara's. The young princess offered a small, hopeful smile. For the first time in years, Alara allowed herself to believe that a better future might be possible. But first, there was much work to be done. The peace held but barely. Years passed, and the scars of war faded slowly on both sides. Commander Alara Vance found herself on Meridia, a human colony world far from the battles that had defined her life. The remembrance ceremony stretched before her, a sea of faces, some hardened veterans, others too young to truly remember the conflict. Alara's gaze fell on Lily, now a teenager, her face a mirror of purpose and barely concealed pain. The girl had insisted on attending, despite Alara's reservations. As the commander took the podium, her words carried the weight of hard-won experience. "We stand vigilant," Alara said, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "Not for glory, not for vengeance, but for the future we've fought to protect." The ceremony concluded, but the air of unease lingered. Alara's comms unit chirped insistently. Colonel Randall's face materialized, his cybernetic eye pulsing an urgent red. "Commander," he said, his voice taut. "Multiple outposts along the neutral zone. They're gone dark. Reports of coordinated attacks." Alara's blood ran cold. "Zorgaxians?" Randall shook his head. "Unclear. Tactics are brutal. Surgical strikes, then scorched earth. We're mobilizing, but—" "I'm on my way," Alara cut him off, already moving. She caught Lily's questioning gaze. "Stay here. It's not safe." Lily's eyes hardened. "I'm coming with you. I've trained as a medic. You'll need every hand you can get." Alara wanted to argue, but time was against them. She nodded curtly and they raced for the waiting dropship. The Retribution cut through hyperspace, emerging into a scene of carnage. The colony world of Taurus II hung in the viewport, its orbital platforms ablaze. Alara barked orders as her troops prepped for planetfall. "Secure the Nutriculture facilities," she commanded. "That's their likely target. And watch for ambushes. These aren't standard Zorgaxian tactics." The dropships screamed through the atmosphere, plasma fire from hidden emplacements sizzling past their hulls. Alara's unit hit the ground running, immediately engaging a squad of heavily armed mercenaries. These weren't standard Zorgaxian troops. Their armor bore mismatched insignias, and their fighting style was pure guerrilla warfare. Alara's enhanced reflexes kicked in as she ducked and weaved, her cryo rifle leaving frozen corpses in her wake. "Multiple contacts!" a legionnaire shouted. "They're everywhere!" Alara tapped her comm. "Randall, we need reinforcements at the processing hub, and get me a secure line to King Zorvax. If these are rogue elements, I want his people here yesterday." The battle raged for hours. Alara led lightning raids on mercenary strongpoints, slowly pushing them back from the vital Nutriculture facilities. But the cost was high. Wounded legionnaires and colonists streamed into the makeshift field hospital, where Lily worked feverishly. Alara caught glimpses of the girl, face smeared with blood and grime, hands steady as she applied trauma patches and prepped soldiers for cryostasis. The innocence in Lily's eyes was fading with each broken body she treated. A deafening explosion rocked the compound. Alara sprinted towards the source, her elite hunter team at her heels. They burst into a cavernous chamber filled with Nutriculture vats, only to find themselves face to face with a nightmarish figure. Venrax the Scourge stood before them, more machine than Zorgaxian. Augmented limbs bristled with weapons, and a mad gleam shone in his remaining organic eye. "The great Commander Vance," he sneered, voice distorted by implants. "Come to save another world from the big, bad Zorgaxians?" Alara's rifle snapped up. "Stand down, Venrax, it's over." The cyborg's laughter was chilling. "Over? This is only the beginning. The strong will always prey on the weak. It's the way of the universe." What followed was a battle unlike any Alara had faced. Venrax moved with impossible speed, his augmentations allowing him to shrug off wounds that would fell a normal being. The chamber became a maelstrom of gunfire, energy blasts, and brutal close-quarters combat. Alara's team fought with desperate courage, but Venrax was a force of nature. One by one, her legionnaires fell. A lucky shot from Alara's rifle finally penetrated Venrax's defenses, sending him crashing into a Nutriculture vat. The warlord emerged, half his cybernetics sparking in failures, but his organic parts seemed wrong, mutated. The Nutriculture medium had reacted with his augmentations, creating something monstrous. Venrax howled, a sound of pure hatred and insanity. He charged Alara, shrugging off her shots like they were nothing. At the last second, she activated her cryo gauntlet, encasing them both in a field of absolute zero. The ice shattered. Alara stumbled back, battered but alive. Venrax lay motionless, his twisted form finally still. In the battle's aftermath, Alara found Lily. The girl's uniform was caked with blood, her eyes haunted. Without a word, Alara pulled her into a tight embrace. "I'm sorry," Alara whispered. "I'm so sorry you had to see this." Lily's voice was steady but cold. "No, I needed to see it, to understand." Alara looked to the stars, visible through the compound's shattered dome. She knew this was only the beginning. Venrax might be gone, but others would rise to take his place. The Cryo Legion's vigil was nowhere near the end. Years passed and the uneasy peace held. Alara Vance found herself on Pelora Prime, the bustling capital world of the Peloran cluster. The metropolis stretched to the horizon, a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. Alara's comm unit chirped. "Commander, urgent transmission from High Command." Colonel Randall's holographic form materialized, his cybernetic eye pulsing red. "Multiple colonies have gone dark along the frontier. We're detecting massive energy signatures consistent with a Zorgaxian battle fleet." Alara's blood ran cold. "Confirmation?" "Negative, but intercepted transmissions mention something called the Purifiers. Intel suggests a xenophobic cult within Zorgaxian space." Mobilize the Legion, Alara ordered. I want strike teams ready to deploy within the hour. As alarms blared across the city, Alara's gaze fell on a familiar face in the crowd. Lily, now a seasoned crisis medic. Their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Hours later, Alara stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Retribution, watching as swarms of civilian ships fled Pelora Prime. Tactical displays showed a sea of red, Purifier warships cutting through system after system. Multiple breaches in the orbital defense grid, a sensor officer shouted. Enemy dropships inbound. Alara's voice carried across the command frequency. All units, prepare for planetfall. We hold the line here. The Retribution shuddered as Purifier energy lances slammed into its shields. Alara raced for the hangar bay, her elite strike force assembling around her. As their dropship plummeted through the atmosphere, the night sky blazed with plasma fire and explosions. They touched down in the heart of the capital, immediately engaging cybernetically enhanced Zorgaxian zealots. Alara's cryo rifle left a trail of frozen corpses as she led her team through the chaos. Push them back from the civilian shelters, she ordered, ducking under a Psi-Whip's crackling arc. For hours, the battle raged across burning city blocks. Alara's tactical genius and the Legion's superior training allowed them to inflict disproportionate casualties, but the Purifier's numbers seemed endless. A priority alert flashed across Alara's HUD. The central medical spire was under heavy assault. Her heart clenched, knowing Lily would be there, treating the wounded. Strike Team Alpha, with me, she barked, leading a desperate charge through enemy lines. They reached the spire's base to find it ablaze, Purifier shock troops swarming the lower levels. Alara fought like a woman possessed, her augmented reflexes and decades of combat experience allowing her to cut through the fanatics like a scythe through wheat. As they ascended, the sounds of battle grew louder. Alara burst onto a floor filled with makeshift triage stations, just in time to see a tertiary blast from Purifier bombardment tear through the windows. Time slowed. Through the smoke and debris, Alara saw Lily crumple, a piece of shrapnel embedded in her chest. The universe contracted to a single point as she raced to her daughter's side. Cradling Lily's broken form, Alara's iron control finally shattered. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered an old lullaby, one she had sung to Lily as a child. "Mom?" Lily's voice was barely audible. "I'm sorry. I couldn't—" "Shh," Alara soothed, her heart breaking. "You've done so much. Rest now." As Lily's eyes fluttered closed for the last time, Alara became aware of heavy footsteps approaching. She turned to see a squad of Purifier elites, their augmented forms towering over her. Something snapped within Alara Vance. A lifetime of loss, sacrifice, and hardly restrained rage erupted like a supernova. With a primal scream that shook the very foundations of the building, she launched herself at the Purifiers. What followed defied description. Alara moved with impossible speed, her every strike shattering armor and cybernetics alike. She was unstoppable, a force of nature given human form. When her weapons were spent, she tore into the zealots with her bare hands. An eternity later, Alara stood alone amidst a sea of broken bodies. The entire floor lay in ruins, smoke curling from the shattered remains of Purifier warriors. She sank to her knees beside Lily's body, gathering her daughter close. Alara's anguished cry echoed across the burning city, a sound of loss and fury that would haunt survivors for years to come. In that moment, as she cradled her child amidst the ashes of a fallen world, Commander Alara Vance ceased to exist. What rose in her place was something new, something terrible, something that would bring the Purifiers to their knees.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.